Hey guys, this is Dumb Crypto here. In this video, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to talk about how valuable is a KYC and an audit in a particular project. So this topic is rarely covered by the YouTubers. They rarely talk about how valuable a KYC and an audit is. They always brush through it and say that, look, this project has an audit. Look, this project has a KYC. But how much weight should we as investors place on the audit and the KYC? So I'm going to use Pragma as an example in most of my explanation because Pragma is one of the projects that recently got rugged and Obsidian did a KYC on them, even though they recently revoked their KYC. But the bad actor in Pragma stole the funds, and right now Obsidian is working with Binance and the authorities to try to apprehend the person and recover the funds back. So I'm going to start off with how valuable an audit is. So if we take a look at a definition of an audit, for example, solidity audit, right? You can see that a smart contract audit is a comprehensive review designed to discover logical errors, security problems, and optimizing opportunities within a code. So essentially, an audit, right, is to make a smart contract better, is to make a smart contract less prone to hacking. It doesn't really give us as investors, right, a sign that whether this project is safe from bad actors like the developers stealing the funds or rugging it. So I think a lot of people make the mistake of placing too much weight on the audits. So I would say that I would say an audit, right, has very little weight to do with how safe a project is. I think the audit is nice to have in a project, but it's not something that determines whether you should invest in the project or not. So what about a KYC? Is a KYC going to make a project safer? Is a KYC going to make the project a sure thing to invest in? If we take a look at the announcement made by Obsidian, right, you can see that recently they upgraded their KYC standard and they removed these particular projects from the list because they updated their KYC standard where every developers that are interacting with the smart contract or are on the multi-sig have to have information on file with Obsidian, right? So they want to make sure that they are able to report the developers to the authorities if there's any theft or any wrongdoing in the project. So is this going to make a project safe? Is this going to make a project not being able to be rug pulled or having funds stolen? So my answer to that is yes and no. So it does protect a project to a certain extent. This kind of KYC standard that Obsidian implements, right, is going to deter certain individuals from doing bad things to the project. It's not going to make the project foolproof 100% safe. The reason being, right, is that a lot of the developers for projects, right, are not going to be in the same country as you are, right? So if your funds get stolen, right, you can only report to the authorities in your jurisdiction, right? So if you take a look at this updated post, right, they posted quite a few jurisdictions on the cyber crimes to report the bad actor from the Pragma project. But the problem is that if the bad actor is in none of these jurisdiction, there's really not much any of this authority can do anything, right? Because they are not able to operate beyond their jurisdiction in this country. For example, if you report in Australia, right, the Australian authorities are not going to apprehend or try to prosecute that person if that person is, for example, in Indonesia or in Thailand, right? Yes, they're going to have probably a record or arrest warrant in Australia, but other than that, right, they're going to be roaming around free because I don't know to what extent these authorities are going their way to apprehend people outside of their jurisdiction. I have not much expertise in that. If you guys know anything, you can let me know in the comments down below. But I will go back to the KYC and say that the KYC, right, to a certain extent, right, it doesn't really protect us investors because if the bad actor is going to do something to the project, they are going to be in a jurisdiction that is not going to be easy for you to apprehend them. Even though it's really nice that the KYC standard has been upgraded to being something that could deter people from committing theft in the project, because say for example Obsidian is going to have the information on hand to report to the authorities, but it's not going to really deter the real bad actors from really doing any rugging or any theft. So I would say the KYC, right, is nice to have, but it's not something that you should also place a lot of weight on. So overall, the KYC and the audit is nice to have for a particular project, but it doesn't really seal the deal, right, as to how foolproof or how safe a project is. In fact, between a KYC and audit, right, I think the KYC is one that is probably something that you guys should look out for. But for an audit, right, I would place very little weight on an audit. I've actually seen a couple of projects, right, that actually have an audit, right, but the audits are done by companies that I've never heard before. I couldn't find any information about those companies, and actually those audit was actually done by probably their own people, done through a Word document, and then they make it look nice and having pictures and making it presentable, and it looks like a legitimate audit. But when you try to search the company, you can't find it. I've actually seen a couple of projects like that, and those projects actually got rugged. So I would say overall, right, between a KYC and an audit, the audit has the least weight. You should never place much weight on an audit. But a KYC is useful to a certain extent, but it doesn't really make a project fail-proof. It doesn't make a project theft-proof also. So I think for us investors in the DeFi space, we have to be very vigilant and careful on what the project presents to us. Do you place a lot of weight in deciding whether you should invest in a project based on the KYC or an audit? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. So if you guys like the video, please give the video a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel if you are new to the channel. Thanks for watching.